I was finished with dinner, so I asked Mom, "May I be excused?" She said yes, so I walked into the living room, sat down on the wooden bench, and placed my practice book on the stand. With my fingers laying gently on the keys, I held my breath and listened. I didn't hear it, so I quietly exhaled, took another breath in, and waited. There it was. My mom said something to my dad, and my dad responded. Now I could begin. Growing up, my favorite song to play on the piano was Für Elise. And as long as no one was paying attention, I could be myself in the music. But as soon as someone was listening to me, that voice inside my head was so loud that I couldn't concentrate. You're not good enough at this song. You're gonna mess up. There's a difficult part coming. You're gonna play the wrong note. And inevitably, I would play the wrong note. But alone, I got lost in the music. In fact, that's how I expressed my thoughts and my emotions. I struggled with putting words to it. I just didn't know how to say what I wanted. Despite my internal struggle, which actually continued all the way into my early career, I was the listener at work, afraid to say the wrong thing. I still didn't want to play the wrong note. And in a conversation when it was my turn to talk, the internal judgment kicked in every single time. Maybe you've felt that way. You don't speak up in a meeting or ask for the close or assert yourself. Because what if we sound silly? What if we reveal too much? What if we mess up and say the wrong thing? But like I said, despite this internal challenge, life moved on. In my 20s, I got married. I had a baby. By my early 30s, I had a great job. I thought I figured it out. Life was headed in the right direction until divorce. Divorce led to debt. Debt led to depression. Depression led to me sitting on that piano bench alone, playing very sad songs. And while I played those songs, the judgment flooded back. How did you let this happen? No one in our family gets divorced. You failed big time. Every day I got up and I worked 2 jobs to pay the bills, and every night I ended up on that piano bench playing and crying and playing and crying until, I'd had enough. I couldn't be this person anymore. Have you had that moment in your life when you thought, something has to change? I just can't be this person anymore. But you don't know the answer. You want to get it right, but you don't know the right answer. I wonder what you did. Me, I got curious. And I was starting at the beginning. So I asked myself, who am I? What do I enjoy in life? Who do I want to be? And I started to feel inspired. I got off that piano bench, grabbed a notebook, and I started writing. Over the next couple of years on that journey, I uncovered everything from my values to my motivations to my beliefs. I discovered my unique personality traits, my strengths, how other people viewed me. Getting to know who you are, who you want to be, and how you fit into this world is very empowering. I stopped worrying so much about what other people thought of me. I started sharing myself in conversations a little bit. This is confidence. I even asked my young son questions about him, like, what was he like? What did he really enjoy? Deeper questions. It was very eye-opening, and I highly recommend doing it. And then came the day I decided I need to do this with other people. And I took my show on the road. I started asking people questions. Because really, how much do we know about other people? Think of the last time that you had a one-on-one meeting with someone. Was there maybe a little bit of small talk, like, how are the kids? What about this weather? Before you just got down to business? But getting to know people on a deeper level is so valuable. When you understand the motivations of your clients or the values of your team, not only can you find deeper ways to build connections with them, things that you have in common, like find your people, create that sense of belonging that we all crave as human beings, but you also lead them better, help them make better decisions. You have influence in the world around you. That is the power of curiosity. It creates influence. And isn't that what we want? We want influence. We want to make a difference in the world. We want to move our clients and our strategic partners and our team to action. We want to sell our idea or our product. Oh, and networking events, wouldn't it be magical if you could strike up a conversation with a stranger and immediately have that likability and trust factor? When I was in my 20s, before my son came along, I started a business with a network marketing company, direct sales, right? I had the goal of replacing my full-time income so that I could live the dream of never waking up to an alarm again. My business lasted 5 years. But while I was working it, I did all the things that they taught us to do. I used the script. I set the goals. I read all the books with the magical words for selling your stuff. And I attended all the networking events because the harder we work, the faster we'll get there, right? But there are some people out there who just have influence. It seems to come easy to them. In fact, at networking events, they seem to be enjoying themselves. What are they doing? It reminds me of my time with that network marketing company. There was a very successful leader named Kathy. Kathy had a huge team. Her sales were through the roof. And she came to do a training for our team one time. I remember watching her talk. She just looked like she was having so much fun. She told stories about walking up to people in the grocery store, striking up a conversation, and walking away with a sale or a new member on her team. I was like, what the heck? I am exhausted, spinning my wheels, and she's having fun? But some people just have it, right? I thought back, or fast forward actually, 10 years to my new curious self. This is the point where I had learned the power of curiosity to discover myself, but hadn't yet mastered how to do it with other people. And I was a manager of a small group, and I was really struggling as a leader. So I thought back to Kathy. Kathy was on the taller side. So you could see her wherever she was in the room. But no matter where she was, she had a flock of admirers surrounding her. I remember being so fascinated by her. I'd watch, and she was listening to someone in the group, and then she'd be laughing with flair, like, ha ha ha. And then she would be saying something, and then everyone was laughing. Kathy had influence. People wanted to be around her. She was truly connecting with people. I got curious. I wanted to know how to use curiosity to build influence like that. I started observing influential people, asking questions about their success. I started trying new things, new ways of communicating, new energies when I walk into a room. People started following my lead, taking my suggestions. This stuff really works. I took all of my findings and I developed a system for using curiosity to create influence by being a curious connector. The process helps you not only create a connection, but capitalize on it during a one-on-one interaction. And you know what I've discovered about that one-on-one interaction? When you are truly connecting with people, it is just as beautiful as music. In fact, when you're engaged in a conversation like this, there's back and forth to it. Each person is sharing and listening. There's a cadence and a rhythm. You're filled with these positive emotions. It paints a picture of hope and belonging. In fact, when you're engaged in that kind of conversation, dopamine is released from the brain in the same way as when you listen to certain music or see a piece of art that you consider beautiful. Can you imagine feeling that way and having influence? The answer lies in curiosity. Curiosity is the desire to learn or know something. If you focus all of your attention into learning about the person that you are communicating with, you will create a connection. It opens the door for one. And what I mean by connection is that energy or that space that's created when each person is listening to understand another person. So, my husband says that when I engage someone in a conversation, when I meet someone new and engage them in a conversation, he says that I am in full Molly mode. I analyzed Molly mode, and I realized that it is just as much a mindset as it is certain strategy and technique. I'm going to share with you today part of the Curious Connector system, a 3-step approach that walks you through a conversation from the warm-up to the finale, so that when you leave today, you will have your own mode for creating a connection. Are you curious? If you're curious, say, I'm curious. The first thing to happen needs to happen before you even open your mouth, and that is engage a positive mindset. Studies show that happy faces are judged as more trustworthy. Isn't that interesting? If you look happy, you look like someone who could be trusted. Let's test this out. Turn to the person sitting next to you and smile at them. Not creepy smile, just smile. Okay. All right, everybody come back. Come back. Now, before you turn back to your partner that you just smiled at, I want you to put your best grumpy, bored, irritable look on your face. I'm feeling really good about myself right now. Thank you. Okay, now turn back to the person and give them that face. Some of you can't even do it without laughing. All right, come back to me. All right, come on back. So, I know what you're thinking. Great, Molly, happy faces are judged as more trustworthy, but I'm not happy every moment of the day. I get it. My job, I used to have a job as a meeting planner or a planner for a third-party meeting planning company, and it was very stressful. I remember working on a giant spreadsheet that was not adding up, hours on it trying to figure out what was going on. I was so frustrated, ready to pull my hair out, and the phone rings. I glance at the display, and it's my client. I had forgotten we had a meeting scheduled for that moment, and I was so not in the mood. But I had to answer the call. And it was just then that my eye caught the photograph that was sitting on my desk. When my son Adam was a year old, we went to the Cleveland Zoo. That's where I live, in Cleveland. And shortly into the walk, I let him get out to stretch his legs because he was just learning how to walk. So we're standing there at the bird cage. He's holding on to the fence, looking at the peacocks in the distance, when he decides to turn around and walk toward me. And it was and he had the biggest, most innocent smile on his face. And just as he turned to do that, I snapped this picture. Fast forward to that frustrating moment at my desk, my eye sees this picture, and I am immediately transported back to that moment in time. I'm filled with joy. I relaxed and smiled and answered the phone. So let's get curious. What is it that creates that joyful emotion for you? Maybe it's a moment in time like this that you have captured. Maybe it is making a funny face into a mirror, a silly dance move to shake it off. Maybe it's thinking of something that you're grateful for. And if you're taking notes mentally or writing them down, I invite you to think of that right now. What can you do in the future? Because the next time that you find yourself in that frustrating moment that you're headed to an event, someone cuts you off and you're already late and you're like, but I gotta go talk to people. I want you to think of that thing that brings you joy, feel it, and then notify your face. So that was 18 years ago. And as you can see, he still makes me smile. I cannot stress the importance of this first step, this first mindset in creating a connection with someone. There's a theory by Barbara Fredrickson, psychologist, that states, negative thinking narrows your focus, but positive thinking expands it. Let me think about when you're having a bad day, what do you think about? All the bad stuff that's happening, right? But positive thinking causes us to be creative, curious, and experimental. When we are open and engaged with the world that way, then we can create a connection. All right, so we're feeling good, positive mindset. Now the next step to creating this connection is the curious mindset. Let's demonstrate this step with an activity. At your table, let's see how many things you can find in common with one another at the table. And we're going to turn it into a competition. So listen to the rules. First, I want you to look around your table, and one person is going to raise their hand to be the scorekeeper. Someone got a pen on them that you can use, or some way to make a note? Identify your scorekeeper, and then look back up here. All right, does everyone have a scorekeeper? All right, here is the one guideline. Don't make it anything obvious. Like we all are members of the Tri-Village Chamber, or we all have shoes on today. See what you can learn about one another. Okay, go for the interesting stuff. For bragging rights, and it is a little loud in here, so you're gonna have to pay attention because I'm putting 3 minutes on the clock. So, for bragging rights, let's see how many things you can find in common with each other at the table. Begin. And that is time. All right, scorekeepers, pencils down. Scorekeepers, I'm going to need to hear from you in a moment. All right. So let's see. If your table had more than 5 things in common, scorekeepers, raise your hands. Oh, well done. All right, if you had 10 or more things in common, raise your hand. Keep your hands up. If you had 13 things in common, what about 15? What, 14? 13? 13? What? 19! You're what? They've all become fast friends because they have so many things in common with each other. Okay, so this table, what's this table? What's this say here? Oh, the awesome table wins! Congratulations. All right. Let me see if I can guess what happened at your tables. Was someone asking questions, or maybe everybody was asking questions? And was there some listening happening? And then was there some response, maybe like a yeah, no, or another question? Congratulations! You've just discovered the way to find a connection. This is the process. Question, listen, respond, and repeat. Now, we could spend hours on each one of these steps because there's great strategies, juicy stuff with each one of these. But I was told I couldn't keep you here till 5. So I'm going to give you my best tip for each one of these 3 actions, starting with questions. When you ask someone questions, here's just what I enjoy doing. I feel like it helps you build a deeper connection with someone, and that is ask questions about who they are as a person. What's most important to them? What do they value? What drives them in their actions, their motivations? Do they have any passion projects, visions for the future? Learning these things not only solicits positive responses, which they'll then kind of associate with you, but it also provides deeper opportunities to build connections with people. Yesterday, I was talking to Katie as we were tidying up all the details for today, and she told me that she is planning events all the way into 2026. When I got off the phone with her, I was like, why do you have to do that? Like, can't you just do what you did in 2025 and just do it again? So that made me curious, and I'm curious, Katie, what motivates you to plan that far in advance?
Innovation and making sure we have things that aren't boring.
Innovation, not boring, great spaces to connect. That's really interesting. I love the creativity. So is it just the creativity that you enjoy, like supplying that to people?
I really love taking care of people.
She enjoys taking care of people. For all of those of you in here who know her, would you agree that sounds like her? That's wonderful. Now, if you're in a conversation with Katie, and you're in this conversation, let's say, and she shares that, Maybe you also enjoy serving people. Maybe you've been in positions where you've had that opportunity to take care of people, and now you have an opportunity to connect on that level. If not, then you think, wonderful, you have an admiration for the world needs people who serve others, right? It just provides a deeper opportunity to connect. So, great leaders will ask questions of their team, like, what was the most rewarding part of that project? What was your biggest success with that client? These answers will tell you what motivates them in their work, what drives them, and what they value. I have a download for you at the end with more questions like these to get you started, get the juices flowing. All right, so you've asked the question, and they are answering your question, so you have to listen. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone where you're listening to them talk, and then all of a sudden you find yourself wondering, what's for dinner tonight? I really don't feel like cooking. And then you glance back and they are staring at you expectantly because they just asked you a question. And it wasn't what's for dinner. Listening can be challenging. Here's one reason why. The average person speaks 150 words per minute, but we can comprehend spoken words at a rate of 300 or more words per minute. That's a lot of space for the mind to wander, which begs the question, what have you been thinking about during this presentation? So here's my tip for listening. Let the thoughts come and go. They're gonna come, but don't dwell on them, because if you dwell on them and think about what toppings are gonna be on that pizza and can you pick it up on your way home, you will stop listening. All right, so you've asked a question. You're listening to the response. Now the ball is back in your court. Think of a conversation like a tennis match. Pay attention to the length of time that each person talks. When you respond, here is my tip for responding. I mentioned earlier that I'm a natural listener, not a natural talker, right? And so I used to make the mistake of only listening and not ever sharing. And I say mistake because this is when I was struggling as a leader. I wasn't sharing, I was asking questions and listening. I'm like, I'm gonna gather all the data I can about my team so that I can motivate them. But what I didn't learn, and it took me a while to understand, is that because I wasn't sharing anything, they didn't really know me. And how can you really trust someone if you don't know and like them first? So here's my tip for responding. Be brief. Don't get lost in the weeds, right? Because if the names and the dates and the years aren't important to the overall message, just leave them out. So use a little curiosity, and before you say it, just think, do I need to include this in my response, in my story? All right, those are my 3 tips for these 3 steps, and now we're going to practice. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this at your tables with a partner. So first, before I go any further, let's just identify who those partners are. So make eye contact with the person that you're sitting. And if you are sitting next to someone that you know really well, and you can easily choose the other person you don't know as well, go that way. But go ahead and find the partners first, make eye contact, give a little head nod. I see some googly eyes going on. I love it. Okay. We're going to switch some seats in order to pair. I love it. All right. Great. Okay, you've got partners. Here is what you're going to do. In your pair, the first person to go will be the person with the shortest hair. Okay. And if it's hard to decide, just pick one. Okay, person number 1 is going to ask the question first. And I'll give you the question in a moment, the prompt. I have that for you. Person number 1 is going to ask the question. Person number 2 is going to respond. While they're responding, person number 1 should be listening. Listen for those things that you maybe have in common, that you respect or admire. And then when person number 2 has finished answering the question, they will ask the question back to person number 1. Okay? So you each will be able to answer the same question. After that, take the conversation wherever you would like to. But here's the thing. You have 3 minutes to do this, and I'll put another timer up. But here's the thing. Look for the connection. And I don't look for create the connection. It's going to be really difficult to get distracted by other things that are like conversations are happening all around you, right? See if you can focus your attention and really use curiosity to understand that person that you're talking to. Does that make sense? All right, person number 1 is going to ask the question first. Here is the question. What do you enjoy most about your job? What do you enjoy most about your job? You may begin. Good job. Good job.
Your timing on those slides with the music, and I'm just kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody come on back to me. I observed some great things happening. Body language, some of you even turned your whole body to listen, which does help improve your focus. I loved that. I saw a lot of head nodding during the listening, some smiling, trustworthy. Great job. And a table with an odd number who just decided we're all going to share because we all love each other like that. Well done. So think about how you can use some of this strategy in your next one-on-one conversation. All right? We are coming to the close of our interaction. You have been positive, and you've been curious and created this connection. Now, how do you get out of it? It was my lunch hour, and I needed a few things from the grocery store. But the problem was I had a 1 o'clock meeting, and I was hungry. I calculated that I could get it all done before my 1 o'clock meeting. So I ran to the grocery store, raced inside, proceeded to weave my cart up and down the aisle, slowing just long enough to pull things off the shelf into my cart. Everything was going as planned, smoothly. I was going to make it back in time. I was headed to the checkout counter, and that's when I heard it. Hey, Molly. Oh, so close. Have you ever been here before? Just wanted to pretend like you didn't hear your name, and I see a lot of heads nodding. I look up, and it is my friend Teresa. Teresa is pushing her cart towards me as if she is taking a stroll on the beach. Now, the old me would have engaged Teresa in a conversation, feeling annoyed the entire time, looking for a reason to get out of it. But now I understand the benefits of connecting. So I gave myself 5 minutes to relax into the conversation. I put my positive and my curious mindsets on. And Teresa told me this really funny story about her husband, which actually made me laugh out loud there in the grocery store. And then she asked if we could get together for lunch because she wanted my advice on something. Well, that made me feel good. It was a very nice interaction. back. So what I would have normally done was apologize. You know, I'm so sorry, but I really need to get going. And then that makes them apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry for keeping you. I didn't mean to keep you. And it just leaves the conversation in this very unsettled feeling, right? I wanted to do something different. So I tried a different approach. I searched the conversation for something that I was grateful for. I looked for the good. And when she had stopped talking for a moment, I said, Teresa, I am so glad that I ran into you today. I really needed that laugh about the story about Jay. She said, oh, good. I'll call you to put a date on our calendars. It worked like a charm. It was wonderful. It was like the transition, the verbal transition that I was ready to end the conversation. She left knowing that she helped brighten my day. And I made it back in time for lunch and my meeting. The last mindset is a grateful one. Look for the good. When you express to someone that they helped you out, that they've done something great, people want to be around you. Talk about influence. So look for the good. Search the conversation for something that you appreciate that happened. Did they help you in some way? Contribute to you? Did they give you their time in the middle of a really busy day? Express your gratitude for something specific. Here's the magic in this mindset. When you tell someone that they helped you in some way, they become the hero. And if you tell someone that you learned something from them, maybe generated a new perspective you didn't know before, they become the expert. Who doesn't want to be a hero or an expert? So leave a positive, lasting impression on someone, this grand finale of your interaction, by using a grateful mindset. All right, how many people here would say that you learned something valuable during our time together? That makes me very happy, thank you. The best way to thank me is by taking a quick 2-minute survey. All you have to do is take out your phones, open the camera app, follow the link that pops up, and when it asks you for a code, put in the word ask, A-S-K, like ask questions. If the QR code isn't working, there is a web browser to let me know if anybody needs it. It's hard to read up there. I am on a mission to create a curiosity movement. And I want to know from you what worked well in my presentation, what would you like me to do more of, or what would you like me to do less of? And when you're finished, and at the end of the survey, you can get that download that I talked about with the questions. When you're finished, just set your phone down. I will know that you're done, and then I have one final thought to share with you. One day, you will find yourself in a conversation with someone who either intimidates you a little bit or someone who is in a lesser position than you, and you'll be judging. You'll notice the thoughts in the back of your head are, I'm less than or I am more than. And you will stop focusing on curiosity to create a connection with them. This reminds me of my son Adam, who, when he was in high school, worked at a technology retail store up in Cleveland. And he came home one night and said, Mom, I earned the award for selling the most warranties. You know, when you go to a technology store and then you go to the counter and they ask, do you want to add the warranty with that? I don't know about you, but I usually say no because you don't really need the warranty until you need it, but I don't. So he earned the most, like he had sold the most of all the cashiers there. And I said, Adam, that is amazing. I'm so proud of you. What are you doing differently from the others? Well, he immediately replied to me, well, I smile at people. What a novel idea. But he thought about it a moment longer, and he said, I don't judge them. When they walk up to the counter, I don't assume that they want it or they don't, or that they could afford it or not. I just ask. Wow. He didn't judge. He considered the possibilities, and he focused on them. And that's what it is. That is what it is all about. And that is what I want for you. I want you to connect deeply with others, but not because you used the script or you got out of your comfort zone, but because you started asking people questions and considered the possibilities, and you stopped judging. And instead, you wonder, what could we create here together if we just got curious? My name is Molly Ketcham. Stay curious. Thank you.